There's always something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent.
Come on, man.
We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Yes, it is, and welcome to it. Kicking off another brand new day here. Fighting for you from the foxhole for another brand new week as well. Here's a question for you. Three big things. Number one, should we start looking up Greenland on Zillow? Seems this issue and this effort to gain control of the island by the United States is not going anywhere. It's not some passing fancy, and Donald Trump's going to get it done. Number two, our next stop could, however, be Iran. A country of over 90 million people that is being ignored by the left because they are ruled by radical Islam. Therefore, they're ignored even though they are in the middle of massive protests. And number three, there is a war going on ICE and common sense, and frankly, on this country. Renee Nicole Good was shot by an ICE agent last week, as you know, as she tried to flee the scene and hit an officer with her car. As I told you last week, it seems pretty obvious to me that if you try to run over a law enforcement agent with a moving vehicle, or if it even seems like that's your intent, you're likely going to get shot. But with all the video evidence out there showing Renee Good's car striking the officer, there are people throwing common sense out the window and just flat out lying to make this a martyr situation. If Renee Nicole Good had been murdered by an illegal alien, there'd be no rioting in the streets. We wouldn't even know her name. The story would not be dominating the weekend news cycle. She would be forgotten and erased. When I pointed out the immigration status of killers in the past, I've been called a racist, a bigot, a xenophobe, all for wanting to make America a safer place. But because Renee was shot by an ICE agent while defying lawful orders and causing harm to an agent, it's an all-out war against ICE, with common sense right out the window. Not just common sense from the truth, too. Listen to Senator Adam Schiff completely distort, misrepresent the entire situation. What else would you expect? Here's little Adam Schiff.
I was struck by a few things. First of all, it's horrifying to watch. And to think about this 37-year-old woman drops her kid off at school, not involved in protest activity or anything, seems to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. But at one point, she's waving other cars to come on past, trying to make sure that she's not in the way, although she's been pulled over. And then you see her trying to turn away from these officers, and the shots fired into the car.
Yeah. This is the same lie that Minnesota authorities were originally trying to get away with. The woman was not simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. We know that she was part of an organized group, ICE Watch. It's a group of agitators that monitors and openly interferes with ICE operations. Before the shooting, she was monitoring and interfering with ICE operations for an extended period of time that morning. A neighbor who witnessed the incident says that Good was blocking traffic so they couldn't progress. Renee's wife, in a statement after her death, admitted that the pair was out to help their neighbors armed with whistles. She said they were not in the wrong place at the wrong time. They were exactly where they wanted to be, where they intended to be. Anyone who just swallows the left's lies about the situation, hook, line, and sinker, is being made the fool again. The left has lied about every single case like this for the last 2 decades. It's a good bet that the open border communists marching in the street and calling for the murder of law enforcement officers are not the good guys. They're not the good guys in this scenario, clearly. Women like Renee Good have made it their personal mission to undermine and defy authority and some twisted idea of justice. I'm seeing a lot of people pointing out that Renee was a mother of 3, which I think is just as tragic, as important as they're trying to make it. It's not because it makes the ICE officers' actions more egregious, but because that's what Renee should have been focused on, her family. First of all, she had lost custody completely of her 2 older children. She had one because her second husband had died. She was the only living parent for that child. Her sole mission in life should have been to protect that child, to protect them, to be there for them. And instead, she was out doing some cosplay vigilante game, assuming that her actions would have no consequences. Oh, we're just playing a game. She comes from a population of left-wingers who got high on policing everyone around them during the pandemic, on moral grandstanding in the wake of George Floyd's death. Political vigilantism is an outlet for them, and it's never enough. Now these people, many of them white women, the majority, long for all-out combat with ICE. Here's another Karen doing the same thing.
If I continually see you following us, interfering with us, honking your horn, blocking our cars, you have a very high probability of making a really bad decision and being arrested today, okay?
Intimidate her. It's not illegal.
Exactly I'm not.
The right decision.
Oh,
then why are you giving her a warning?
I'm giving her a warning to not interfere with what we're doing, to not make a bad decision today and ruin your life.
Whoa, bad
decisions. Thank you.
That's funny coming from you.
Okay, alrighty. Thank you. Have a good day.
I hope you have a terrible day.
These are the guys. They won't show their faces. They're taking these people. No reason. Abduction. Up. Nope. You don't.
This is an active traffic stop. You interfere with
Right.
my traffic
Are
stop.
you a police officer?
I am a police officer. What does it say? Police, federal officer.
No, it
right?
says Is that what it says?
You can read, right? Please step back. I'm asking you twice. Third time I'm gonna make you. If you resist, I'm gonna arrest you. Thank you very much. That works.
They're not. They're taking these men unlawfully. 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 They're taking these men unlawfully.
Jeez, can you imagine? How do you get to that place? I'm struck by the delusional actions of Renee and her wife, Rebecca. In these clips that continue to circulate on the internet, their attitude speaks volumes that they think this is all just a joke, just a game. Like I said, they're cosplaying. Something they can't wait to tell all their liberal friends about, that their actions don't have consequences. This is exactly what their movement has taught them, that they can get away with impeding law enforcement without any consequences. That ICE Watch group I told you about, they've released more information in the last several days about engaging with ICE. Their tips include this: let the victim be illegal, the victim being a criminal illegal alien in your car. Ask a nearby business for a lockable room or office. Block ICE cars. Ask white witnesses to put their bodies between ICE agents and the criminal illegal alien. Are you kidding me? First of all, that's racist, clearly. Second of all, they do not do any of that. What the hell? Like I said, where's the common sense? There isn't any. There's just none. The hatred is pervasive. Here's a post from a popular musical artist, Zara Larsson, who says she loves criminals, abortions, and socials, among other things, but effing hates ICE. How shameful and downright stupid. Compare the left's rhetoric to Tom Homan's public plea to the public. Here he is.
I'm begging. Tone down the rhetoric. In my career, I've buried Border Patrol agents, I've buried ICE agents, and the saddest thing I've ever had to do is hand a folded flag to a spouse or a child. I don't want to see anybody die. Anybody. The people we're looking for, even the worst of the worst. I don't want to see anybody die. So, for God's sake, let's tone the rhetoric down. Less blood. I don't want to see any more bloodshed. I didn't want to see bloodshed from day one. But with the rhetoric now, comparing ICE to murderers and the chief secret police, I'm afraid this is not over.
I'm afraid you're right.
And I'm afraid he's right, too. Absolutely right. We'll have more on this as we continue. Welcome to a Monday here on the Steve Gruber Show. Good morning to Real America's Voice and the MTN networks all across this country. A lot to get to after the break. All right, so Tom Homan, absolutely right. The bloodshed will continue for as long as the left continues its war against law enforcement of all sorts. It's the way the world works. Whether the left likes it or not, that's the way the world works. And they do not like the truth, as evidenced by this CNN panel and its allergic reaction to the facts. Listen closely.
Well, protesting is perfectly fine in this country. That's not what was happening in this case. And as we saw from the reporting in the last 24 hours, there's a group of people who are being trained to use vehicles in convoys to disrupt ICE operations.
Exactly, Scott?
Disrupt
to do
and
what
impede
exactly?
ICE operations.
Well, hold on. I mean, I think this is important. What are
disrupt and impede.
What are you
Do you have
suggesting that she
quantitative
was
statistics
doing?
to support this conclusion?
Yeah.
I read the article in the New York Post that went chapter and verse through all the training.
Everything in the Post is absolutely right.
The New York Post.
I know it's not convenient to your narrative, but they're training to impede and obstruct. I feel like I'm taking.
But that doesn't justify getting shot.
I mean,
and
listen,
there's a cause and effect
I can't
here.
speak to the crazy pills, but in the video.
I mean, you're denying
in the video,
things that have been openly reported.
Scott, listen, I'm not going to treat the New York Post like the Bible, okay? In the video,
I didn't ask you to. I just asked you to be honest about what we. No one's disputing
this. You see the vehicle.
Nobody's disputing this. He's right. It's not the Bible. It's the facts. It's a timeline. The discourse I'm seeing from the left has me feeling the same way, Scott. No question about that. But the ones taking crazy pills, for instance, over in the crazy capital, that being Portland, Oregon. A CBP officer was shot and wounded 2 people in Portland who also tried to run over officers with their car. It's since been confirmed that those 2 individuals, which were originally called a man and his wife, not actually true. It was a Venezuelan gangbanger from Tren de Aragua, TDA, and a prostitute with him, also illegal. But when the Portland police chief, Bob Day, admitted those ties, he started crying about injustice against Latinos. I can't even begin to make this up. Listen.
I hesitated to even share this information initially because I'm very aware of the historic injustice of victim blaming, oftentimes portrayed by law enforcement, including this very agency that I've represented so proudly for so many years. And historically, we have not been quick to disclose the potential criminal history of others. I want to speak for just a moment specifically to my Latino community. It saddens me that we even have to qualify these remarks, because I understand, or at least have attempted to understand through your voices, your concern, your fear, your anger. This information in no way is meant to disparage or to condone or support or agree with any of the actions that occurred yesterday.
Geez. Oh, come on. These are not serious people. They're not. And if anything, it's racist to lump all Latino people in with a Venezuelan drug trafficking gang member. I bet there's plenty of Latinos grateful that those criminals are off the streets right there in Portland. Like I said, just an utter lack of common sense and a complete twisting of the truth and an omission of the facts, especially by the media, which J.D. Vance has handled so masterfully in the last week or 2. I'll leave you with this interaction, which a reporter tried to insinuate that Renee lost her life just because she was a law-abiding protester. Listen.
If everything that you say is true, how does being part of that network justify being shot?
Well, being part of the network doesn't justify being shot, but ramming an ICE officer with your car, that's what justifies being shot. It's not a good thing, by the way, but when you force somebody to engage in self-defense, it's almost a preposterous question. I'm not saying that funding some of this stuff justifies capital punishment. Nobody would suggest that. The reason this woman is dead is because she tried to ram somebody with her car and that guy acted in self-defense. That is why she lost her life, and that is the tragedy. What is, I'm sorry guys, what's going on here? You guys are meant to report the truth. How have you let yourself become agents of propaganda of a radical fringe that's making it harder for us to enforce our laws? You just asked me a question that presumed that the reason why this woman died is because she was engaged in legitimate protest. She tried to run somebody over with her car, and the guy defended himself when that happened. Next question.
The bottom line, don't for a second buy the way the left is twisting this story. They don't deserve even a second of consideration because it's the left's rhetoric that put Renee in this position in the first place. The truth about using a car as a weapon is police can defend themselves. Listen to this.
When that gentleman, when she showed up that morning, she weaponized that vehicle. Jake, she could have been standing there with a Glock on her hip, okay? The police wouldn't have fired at her. They said, please get out of the car. She didn't get out of the vehicle. When she revved that vehicle engine, when she revved the engine and proceeded forward, she weaponized it. That officer did not have the hindsight of hours of watching videotape. He had a microsecond to make a decision whether to fire her or not to fire her. Do you think he wanted to end somebody's life that day? No.
No. There's a war on ice and on common sense. I know which side I'm on. I know which side I'm on. Which side are you on? This part of the program, by the way, brought to you by Puro Clean's Veterans Initiative. It's the Puro Vet program empowering veterans to the owner of franchise in a $210 billion restoration industry. If you're a veteran or know somebody who is, this is your chance to get on board. 855-PURO-VET or go to purovet.com. Again, you'll be put to the head of the line. You're going to save costs on setup. Over 500 franchise so far, from Michigan to Florida and all points in between, growing across the country. I've used this company. When I had my house fire at the rental house, this company has been spectacular. And they became friends. And they became a partner. That's how good they are. I believe in them, so should you. If you're a veteran, you should believe that you have a chance to step to the front of the line. 855-PURO-VET. purovet.com. Check that out. All right, still to come, we're going to talk about the uprisings in Iran. What does it mean? What's going to happen there? We'll talk about still to come here. Welcome to a Monday on the Steve Gruber Show. All right, so the offers to Greenland are being ratcheted up. Latest offer I saw, potential offer, and this is all, very fast moving. $100,000 per resident. There's about 59,000 people there. So what are we at, $6 billion-ish? I think Donald Trump will go higher. Look, it's not the first time we've tried to buy Greenland. And we bought the Dutch West Indies in 1917 for $25 million in gold, which would be equated to a lot more money today, obviously. We now call it the American Virgin Islands. So, we've done business with the Danes before. They are not doing what needs to be done to protect the Arctic from incursions from Russia and China. This is a serious undertaking. Word is that Marco Rubio and others are there now discussing how this can be put together. Now, if Greenland is autonomous, let them vote on it. Everybody gets $100,000. How do you vote? Find the number. This deal is going to happen. This deal is absolutely going to happen. Donald Trump is absolutely going to put it together. There's no question about it. No question about it. Look, if you're struggling to kickstart your brain in the morning, Brain Reward gives your brain refreshing support with tyrosine, B-complex vitamins, and nutrients that help regulate stress and focus. It's perfect for school, work, and creative projects. I take it every day. Boost mood, clarity, motivation, all without caffeine jitters. It's from our great company, Victory Nutrition International. I should say great partner. It's not my company. It's nutrition that gets in. You can get 20% off now at vni.life/Gruber with the promo code Gruber. vni.life/Gruber. These are the best vitamins you're ever going to find. Ivy did the research, and she's serious about this stuff. She went in and studied this company. They only have 6 products, 6. They don't have something for everybody, but they do have something for you. Victory Nutrition International, vni.life/Gruber, promo code Gruber. Save 20% right now. Get a subscription. It's easy. It's there every month. You never have to worry about it. It is nutrition that gets in. All right, still to come. We're going to talk with a member of the National Council of Resistance of Iran as we watch, 2 weeks into these violent protests. Hundreds of thousands of people in the streets in 100 different Iranian cities. Is Iran finally at the tipping point because people just don't care anymore and they're willing to put their lives on the line? Maybe. We'll talk about it straight ahead. All right, you've been watching the protests in the streets from Tehran and now 100 cities across Iran. Pretty remarkable, actually. As we've discussed on this program for the past several months, Iran is at its weakest place in 46 or 47 years. People in the streets seem to be rising up. Yeah, some of them are being killed. And the Trump administration saying, if you continue to do that, there could be action. I suspect that's possible. My next guest, Ali Safavi, member of the National Council of Resistance of Iran, joining me as part of Iran's parliament in exile. Ali, good morning. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. Thanks for having me on your show.
All right. So you've got obviously a lot of connections inside the country. This has been going on for, 14, 15 days now. What is the latest? What can you tell us today? Where are we in this uprising?
Certainly. First of all, let me just announce for the first time actually on your show that based upon the information that the main Iranian opposition, the Mujahideen Khalq, MEK, has ascertained after detailed investigation into all of the morgues, hospitals, other centers, and within the regime, unfortunately, we have the sad news that some 3,000 protesters have been shot and killed by the Iranian regime security forces. Mrs. Rajavi, the NCRI president-elect, sent her deep condolences to the people of Iran, to the families of those killed, and of course called on the international community to hold the Iranian regime accountable for an obvious case of crime against humanity. That said, reports from many cities inside Iran, actually the uprising now has spread to 190 cities in all 31 provinces, that this brutal massacre of protesters has failed to quell the yearning of the Iranian people for freedom and for the overthrow of this regime in its entirety, as evident in the chants that they make, death to the oppressor, be it the Shah or the leader, meaning they reject any form of dictatorship, whether the relics of the past monarchy or the current theocracy. As we speak, of course, the protests are continuing despite the fact that the regime has shut down the internet throughout the country. We are still getting lots of video clips through various means that shows people are defying the IRGC. In fact, there have been some video clips, dramatic videos of the protesters engaging in firefights with the security forces. Actually, yesterday, the Iranian news agency Tasnim, which is affiliated with the IRGC as terrorist Quds Force, announced that in the past 15 days, some 120 of the IRGC, the paramilitary Basij, and other security forces have been killed by the protesters who have defied the onslaught that the regime has launched on them.
Let me ask you this, Ali. President Trump indicating that he would consider supporting the Iranian people because, look, the United Nations is a failed organization. The United Nations should be the one stepping in to prevent this kind of attack on people, unarmed people. 3,000 killed, you said. 120 of the military folks killed as well. But Iran continues to turn and train its rifles and its firepower on the citizens who are uprising against this, this tyrannical government. What would you like the president to do? It seems to me even his words have given hope to people in the streets of Iran to rise up, to have courage. I mean, it takes courage to sit there and take live rounds. It does. I mean, I can't even imagine being so desperate for freedom that you'll rise up with sticks and stones to fight bullets. But that's where we are. What would you like to see President Trump do?
Well, naturally, you're absolutely correct. It takes tremendous courage. After all, the Iranian people have been under the brutal arm of this regime for the past 47 years. They have nothing to lose. But when it comes to policy vis-a-vis the regime, including the one by the US, naturally condemning the Iranian regime encourages the people of Iran. But I think more needs to be done, short of any kind of, let's say, military intervention. I think the responsibility to overthrow this regime rests solely with the Iranian people and the organized resistance. And there is a structured resistance on the ground right now that is leading these protests and protecting the protesters in the face of the IRGC's onslaught. But I think we must go beyond words. There are several things that could be done. One, I think the international community, the US, the Europeans, must make an unequivocal statement, unequivocal, today even, that they recognize the right of the Iranian people to overthrow this regime. and replace it with a democratically elected republic form of government. Secondly, they should deny any kind of lifeline to the regime in Tehran. As Mrs. Rajabi said the other day, as a single dollar of oil, dollar that the regime gains from the sale of oil, turns into bullets that pierce the hearts of young Iranians in the street today. So there is a lot can be done. The Iranian regime diplomats must be booted out of Western capitals. The Western diplomats should be recalled from Iran. The regime must be isolated. It must be blockaded. And as I say, an extension of moral and political support, very clear one, that let's move on from this regime, will go a long way in encouraging the people of Iran and at the same time warning the regime that it cannot shoot at protesters indiscriminately and slaughter them as they chant for freedom.
Let me ask you this, Ali. The National Council of Resistance in Iran. You view yourself as Iran's parliament in exile. Some agree, not everyone in Iran agrees with that, but enough. Would you, if you end up in power, one of your members or your organization, would you invite the United States in to help calm the place down, to help rebuild? What would be your step, do you think?
That's a great question. That's a great question. As you may know, the NCRI has a 10-point platform for the future of Iran. Mrs. Rajabi articulated this not yesterday, not a week ago, 22 years ago at the Council of Europe in Strasbourg. And of course, that plan calls for cooperation with the rest of the world, naturally the United States, to rebuild the Iranian economy, which is in ruins as a result of the disastrous rule of the mullahs. As you know, we have a lot of support in the United States among senior politicians from both sides of the aisle, as well as those within the U.S. Congress, both House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate, Republicans, Democrats. So naturally, we envision, I think, a future for Iran that lives at peace with its neighbors, ends all these years of intervention in the affairs of foreign countries, the terrorism that the Iranian regime has used to bolster its proxies. And naturally, we look forward to a very constructive and friendly relation based on mutual respect with the United States as well.
Very well done. All right, Ali, I know you're watching it closely every day, every minute. Make sure you come back and keep us informed as the situation on the ground continues to develop, because this is an important story that's not being covered, by the way, very well by anyone in the mainstream media. It's being ignored. We cover it here every day, Ali, and I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Well, and just one last point. You say that they're not covering it, but they are covering it right now. They are making it sound as though the people of Iran want the return of the Shah or his son or the relics of the past. That is absolutely not the case. The most prevalent chant in the streets of Tehran and other cities now is death to the oppressor, be it the Shah or the leader. So they want a democratic future. The end of one-man hereditary rule is over.
Yeah, fresh start. Ali, thank you as always. We'll talk again soon, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity. Steve, keep up the good work.
Thank you very much. And nobody's covering this. Why is nobody covering this the way we are? I'll be right back. Welcome back to it. What if I could make your wellness and your health in the new year something you don't have to think about too much? I mean, look, we all have New Year's resolutions. Sometimes they come and they go. Usually within a few days, they're like, forget about that. Not this time. This time, we're going to take care of ourselves in 2026. You got a deal? You and I? All right, we're going to do this together. And I'm going to bring in my good friend Joe Reek. He's the Vice President of Sales at Longevity. Longevity is a one-of-a-kind product. It delivers all the things you need in one package every day. Joe, welcome back to the program and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Steve. It's a pleasure to kick off the year talking with you and your audience. It's been so much fun to do this with you. And this is the perfect way for me to start off the new year, is talking about how to be healthy and how to have the best 2026.
That's exactly right. Look, we talk about health and wellness. People do it in the new year oftentimes, but then they kind of drift away from it. But the product that you have put together, Longevity, it's a shake that has all the essential things you need, and it's sourced from great places. It's not a bunch of filler and nonsense. It's a way to make sure that if you're an athlete or you're an older American or you're on some sort of a dietary plan and you don't want to lose bone and muscle, this is the product for you, Longevity. Tell the folks how you develop Longevity and why it's so different.
Well, like you said, Longevity is very, very unique. This is your all-in-one nutritional shake. It's a one shake a day that's going to deliver 25 grams of protein, which is going to help your muscles. It's going to help build your muscles, maintain that muscle mass. It's also going to deliver 16 grams of collagen, which is going to help your tendons, your joints. It's going to help your hair, your nails. It also has bovine colostrum for advanced immunity support. It has probiotics for gut, to heal the gut, get rid of the bad bacteria, and it has the good bacteria in your gut to help process those foods. It's going to have 25 natural vitamins and minerals. And this is really exciting, Steve, because we don't use anything synthetic inside of Longevity. And when you read the ingredient panel, these are words that you recognize. In fact, when I love reading this nutritional fact where you have the real vitamins that comes from broccoli, spinach, kale, sweet potato, sunflower seed, maitake, and shiitake mushrooms. It delivers everything that your body needs to help make your body function, give you the energy, and as well just make you feel a whole lot better. And I love talking about the story of how Longevity was developed. In fact, one of the founders of Longevity, his mom was diagnosed with renal failure, and she was given about a 6-month prognosis to live. And while he noted that the care that she was receiving, that the nutrition was suffering. And because he is a food scientist, he started to create and kind of use his mom as a guinea pig to provide her better nutrition. And by giving Longevity once a day to his mom, they actually added an additional 3 years of life to her. And because of that, we want to share that with everybody, because if it could help his mom in that particular situation, give more time to spend with her family, help her be more comfortable, help her get the nutrition that her body needs, we want to share that with everybody. And that's exactly what Longevity does. It's a one-day shake.
It's time-tested and science-backed. That's what I like about it. You guys have done the research. In fact, this product has been available to senior living centers and assisted living centers for a long time now, but now you've made it available to the general public because it's good for not just for the older folks or the people that have health issues like that. My son uses it. We've talked about this a number of times. My son uses it before and after football practice or basketball practice because it just, I mean, look, if you've got a teenage boy, they grow like a weed, they eat everything in sight, so does he, and this is the perfect product. It's strawberry, it's chocolate, it's vanilla. He mixes it up with milk. You can do it with water. You can do it with ice. You have a variety of ways you can do it. But the fact is, the nutrition gets in, doesn't it?
It delivers. Absolutely, it does. And you know what I love this too, Steve, is I get emails and phone calls from customers who have been using Longevity who say, Joe, this is amazing. Like my husband, who is 70 years old, he's telling me that he has more energy than he did when he was in his 30s. Other customers will call us up. You know, we actually had one that I spoke with not too long ago that was in a devastating car accident, and she's using Longevity to help with her recovery. I spoke with a customer who's on a GLP-1 that's having a hard time getting the nutrition for her body, but supplementing it with Longevity. So now she's getting what her body needs while maintaining that muscle mass and still reaching her dietary goals as well. So it is a perfect product for everybody of all ages. It has DHA and omega-3 oils that help with your brain function. It helps prevent the onset of dementia and Alzheimer's. This is the easiest thing that you can do. It's one shake a day. You mix it up with cold water. You can put it in milk. You can put it in your smoothies. You can even make it as a pudding if you wanted to. It's
Wow.
very, very versatile, and it's very, very delicious.
Yeah, and from people watching this program, scores of people said they're trying longevity now. You stay in touch with them. They're getting subscriptions to it, so they don't have to think about it. It just shows up every month. Here it is, because it comes in a good size bag, so the portions are there. Look, from 9 to 90 and all points in between, this is good. Like I said, kids in sports, people that want to be more active, that need that strength. Look, I told you this. I've been running up the stairs since I started using longevity. Look, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I get it. I just feel better. I do. I just feel better, right? And it's for everyone.
Everyone, and it does make a difference, you know, and that's the beautiful thing about longevity. It is very, very simple to do. It's very, very easy. It replaces a whole array of supplements that you're taking that actually saves you money. So no longer do you have to take your omega-3 pills. No longer do you have to take your collagen pills. No longer do you have to take your probiotic pills. No longer do you have to take your gross tasting protein shakes, because longevity is your all-in-one solution.
Yeah,
No
those-
diet, no cleanses, no complicated routines, just one simple habit that performs.
There it is, Joe Reek. Yeah, those nasty taking shakes. Ivy, eat this. No, but this I'll take. Joe Reek, VP
Absolutely.
of Sales, Longevity Wellness. I appreciate seeing you. Happy New Year, my friend.
Happy New Year. And just one more thing, Steve, make sure you use your promo code Gruber to get 25% off. If you decide to do a subscription, you're actually going to save even a little bit more money as well. But take advantage of that. Start the year off right. Keep with your New Year's resolutions and have the healthiest 2026 ever by using longevity.
There you have it. Joe Reek, my friend, thank you so much. It's longevitywellness.co. Longevitywellness.co. The promo code, as he mentioned, is Gruber. You'll save 25% off. And if you get a subscription, you'll save even more money. And you'll have the healthiest 2026 ever. Trust me on this. Joe Reek, thank you very much. Greatly appreciated. Again, longevitywellness.co. Promo code Gruber, 25% off. Make this year the best ever. I'll be right back. It is The Steve Gruber Show. All right, so we've covered what's coming next. Venezuela, that has been done. A lot of people asking the question, well, why did we leave the vice president there that was handpicked by Maduro in place? My opinion is pretty obvious, and it's probably the same as the president, which is why we are. You can't just rip everything out and leave a power vacuum. That creates real chaos. So he's talked to the vice president. My understanding is the president of Colombia is also coming to the White House this week, if I'm not mistaken. Colombia warned, Nicaragua warned, that if you don't get in line with ending this drug trade, this human trafficking operation, this criminal activity, you too could see some sort of activity from the United States. We'll see how that plays out. But right now, the president is delivering on, look, he's delivering on everything he said he was going to do. He's going to close the border. He's going to take illegals out of the country. And by the way, when ICE was operating in Minneapolis, throughout Joe Biden's presidency, which they did, they took a few hundred people out of Minnesota every year. Not as many as they are now, but functioning, doing everything it does now. It's been scaled up. But why were there no protests then? Why were there no protests and people running around blowing whistles then? Makes you ask the question, doesn't it? Makes you wonder what the real truth is, doesn't it? Sure does. No question about it. Well, let me flag something important for you as we move into winter. Doctors warning again, this is the worst flu season. Going to be a rough one. You can get prepared with the Wellness Company because they've got all the products you need. Dr. Peter McCullough and his team put together the best products. You need to stay ahead of the disease, which means personal preparation. That's why I trust the Wellness Company two-step approach. Step one, prevention through immune defense nasal and throat sprays. We've got them here now. And look, I'm hitting on all cylinders. Step two, early treatment through the Contagion Emergency Kit. Also true. Physician-prescribed antiviral options. It's all there for you. The Wellness Company is your one stop for everything you need to stay prepared. You can get prepared now at twc.health/Gruber. twc.health/Gruber. I want to share one more thing with you. I talked to you about the YouTube. I think it's a great streaming platform. And now all you have to do is jump on here, click that QR code. Right there it is. And you can follow all the live action when it happens. You can go back and look at the great interviews we do, share them with your friends, and grow this community. Look, we can't do this alone. I need your help every day. Click that QR code. We'll show it again tomorrow. Back after this.
There's always something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent. Come on, man. We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Well, it certainly is, and I'm glad you are here to join me for all the information fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom every single day. I spent my weekend in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I'll tell you more about that coming up. But first, I want to tell you about these big three things for the hour. Number one, what are the best states to retire? What are the best and the worst? Does your state make the list at the top or the bottom? We'll take a look with Ivy coming up later. Number two, did the U.S. military use a truly secret weapon to help pull off the daring arrest of Nicolas Maduro? According to those on the ground, yes. But what was it? And number three, I just cannot help but be disgusted in the national news circus in this country. The national news media routinely ignores big stories. Right now, they ignore all the evidence that led up to the fatal shooting in Minneapolis. They jump right to the conclusion and show you just a short clip. They show you a short few-second clip and then jump right to the conclusion it must be the fault of the ICE agent. Then they hand a megaphone to all the far-left nutbags to amplify the false narrative. Truly sad. Look, I used to work for NBC News when it was still a news company 25 years ago. And let me be clear about this. I stand with law enforcement. And look, I don't like it any more than you do when I fail to observe the posted speed limit and get a ticket along the way here and there, all right? I don't like that. Nobody does. And I don't always like the way you get treated. And is every police officer a hero? No. But the fact of the matter is most of these men and women are out there doing their level best to protect you every day, putting their lives on the line. And if you're getting spit on, getting sworn at, F-bombed all over the place, and then being interfered with constantly by a swarm of agitators, mostly white women, I mean, who wants that job? Well, for the people that do, thank you. Let me just say thank you to law enforcement, all right? Unfortunately, people like fake Jake Tapper, who will be unemployed someday soon, by the way, when CNN gets restructured. Unfortunately, he's still on the air. Getting destroyed by his narrative, though. That's the good news. It's kind of fun to watch when it happens. Listen.
Doing a disservice to the officer by reaching a conclusion before the investigation takes place.
I haven't heard you say once what a disservice it's done for Mayor Fry to get up and to tell ICE to get the F out of his city, and AOC to stand up before she had any of the facts and call this officer a murderer. For individuals, well, call them out, Jake. Spend as much time calling them out. Okay. I have provided you with facts and information to back up every single word that we have said and every single part of this investigation. And if you don't like it, that's fine. But we're going to continue to do the right thing to keep the American people safe.
I know that you'd like.
Yeah. Just destroying him. What about the narrative being put forth by you, Jake? What about the narrative by you, Jake, and all the other mainstream media outlets who jumped right in and allowed Tim Walz and Jacob Fry, the governor and the mayor, to call it murder, to people like Adam Schiff, who called it murder, and Hakeem Jeffries and all the rest? Again, as I mentioned in the first hour, if this woman had been raped and killed and brutally murdered like, say, Laken Riley or Nungary or any of the other victims we've heard about, if it had been them, they'd have been ignored for the most part, forgotten about. These protesters wouldn't care about that. They wouldn't care about the people being murdered or killed by a drunk driver that's here from Guatemala or somewhere else that doesn't belong here. You'd never hear about those folks. But definitive proof. Definitive proof, video proof. The offer was hit before firing. Listen to this breakdown.
Before, were any shots fired before the officer made contact or once the officer had made contact with the vehicle? I just want to play you've enhanced a version of the video which you slowed down, and I want to ask you about it afterwards. So let's look at this. So, from your experience, what does that show? What does that slowed down version tell you?
Well, the slow down version is showing me that when the SUV pulls forward, they make contact with the agent in the street, and then immediately following that contact, you hear 3 gunshots follow.
So there's, according to you, you do not hear a shot before contact.
I do not in this particular video.
Yeah, so there it is, an expert on CNN. Anderson Vanderbilt Cooper there. Yeah, his mom is Gloria Vanderbilt, for those of you that don't remember. Very privileged young guy trying to pick apart America. Definitive video proof. That's that guy's job. He testifies in high-profile trials. He goes and looks at the video. The officer did not fire his weapon until he had been hit by the vehicle, which is why you can see the vehicle with 1 gunshot wound straight through the windshield. Didn't shoot from the side. He shot a woman that was cosplaying, vigilante. She thought it was a game. It's not a game. Meanwhile, in Minneapolis, the fraud there, far larger, far more robust than anyone is telling you, until now, that is. Because the fraud is going to lead to prosecutions of lots of people. And hopefully, will hold accountable the people that were at the top that turned a blind eye. Why? Because they wanted those votes. Those people vote in a block. Hey, we won't look at your child care or your daycare center. We won't look at the Leering Center. We won't look at the autistic center, the home health care companies, or any of that. Just keep voting for us. The fraud is so widespread. Listen.
Since September 19th, officers from our Fraud Detection and National Security Directorate, working in teams, have conducted over 1,000 site visits across the Minneapolis-St. Paul area as part of this operation. What they found should shock all of America. Focusing on a list of over 1,000 target cases involving more than 900 individuals, our officers encountered blatant marriage fraud, visa overstays, people claiming to work at businesses that can't be found, forged documents, abuse of the H-1B visa system, abuse of the F-1 visas, and many other discrepancies. Over the course of the operation, our officers found indication of fraud, non-compliance, or public safety and national security concerns in nearly a little less than 50% of the cases interviewed.
Yeah. Fraud everywhere. Everywhere. I cannot believe that it happened in a vacuum, because it did not. There were people at high levels in the Minnesota government that knew about this. And we now have been hearing stories of them going back and changing dates, manipulating paperwork, creating paperwork out of thin air altogether to cover their tracks. Let me explain. This is the old adage. The cover-up always worse than the crime. This is going to pull down other people. People will go to jail for this. Look, Illinois has a long history of sending its governors to prison. Maybe it's time for Minnesota to join them. Huh? We'll keep an eye on it for you, of course, as always. Coming up, election integrity. Ken Cuccinelli is going to join me. Election integrity, key and pivotal. There's been a change in the United States Postal Service and postmarking ballots. What does that mean? We'll talk about it coming up. Struggling to All right, let's jump right back into it because election integrity is something we've been focused on at this program for years now, certainly dating back. I mean, we've been doing this for 15 years. We've had a lot of chance to talk about election integrity, and we learn now out of the state of Georgia, for example, 300,000 plus ballots had no chain of custody, had not the right signature, should never have been counted, which means John Ossoff probably never actually won a Senate seat. That would change things. John Ossoff, one of the top targets for Republicans this year. Join me, Ken Cuccinelli, National Chair of the Election Transparency Initiative. Ken, welcome back to the program.
Good to be with you, Steve.
All right, so an election year means election integrity. Now, there's this change that happened, and maybe you can bring me up to speed on this. The United States Postal Service, postmarking for these mail-in ballot states. I've read some about it. I'm a little confused because they say if your ballot gets there on election day, which in some states would be valid to be counted within a certain number of days, they say, well, we can't guarantee that the election, the mail will get postmarked properly. What does that mean? Does that mean that less mail-in ballots go through, or they're just going to say it doesn't matter what the postmark is? We need to sort this out.
So on Christmas Eve, the post office established a formal rule letting people know that the day you put a ballot in the mailbox may not be the day it's date stamped. They're going to do all their date stamps at their major collection centers. And the post office for several years has been changing how it handles mail. Now your local mail carrier takes things back to your local post office, and from there it goes to what to a lot of us would look like a warehouse or a distribution center. It's at that distribution center where mail stamps are going to be applied. And the day your mail carrier picks up your ballot or your tax returns, folks, coming up in a couple of months, they won't be date stamping that at the post office near you. They're going to ship it to that distribution center, and that's where it'll get its date stamp. And that may not happen, and probably will not happen, on the day your piece of mail is actually picked up. So, of course, for the 16, 15 states that allow ballots to come in after Election Day, and they'll count them if they're stamped, date stamped, on Election Day or before, this has put all those states in a state of consternation, because now they can't count on the post office, at least to be fast about date stamping the ballots. You know, this could take another day or two. And that means that to be sure you get an Election Day or before date stamp, you're going to have to put it in the mail the Saturday before Election Day, not Election Day. So I would say, Steve, that just 3 weeks ago, Ohio became, I want to say, the 35th state to declare that Election Day ends on, Election Day. And that they won't accept ballots after Election Day, except in the case of military and overseas votes, which they give 4 extra days because of the distance.
Yeah.
But they'll be able to announce their results on Election Day now.
Wouldn't that be something?
It's made this a lot more confusing for those other states.
You know, Florida starts counting 9 days in advance. And that's why Florida can get up and down and done by 11 o'clock or midnight every Election Day. They've got it figured out. Again, other states should pay attention to what Florida's doing in this regard. Let me ask you about Michigan. Donald Trump and I have had conversations about this. He believes Michigan is ground zero. He's thought that before 2016, 2020, and 2024. He just thinks that Michigan is the pivotal swing state. I agree with him on that. I think it's ground zero. And yet here, the Secretary of State continues to refuse to clean up the voter rolls. Jocelyn Benson, she's now running for governor, of course, naturally she is, without cleaning up the voter rolls, which is required by the state constitution, but for which there are no penalties if you do not. It's the strangest thing, Ken. How do we clean up a state like Michigan?
Yeah, and, you know, since 2020, when a lot of your listeners have paid more attention than they ever did before to this subject, we've seen improvements across the country, including in all the swing states except Michigan and Nevada. Michigan has gotten worse, not better. And the two best ways to deal with Michigan, one are you're seeing Harmeet Dillon, the head of the Civil Rights Division at the Department of Justice, going around the country forcing cleanups of voter rolls and federal access so they can determine just how dirty the voter rolls are. That's one. But two, for people listening to you and me today who live in Michigan, go become an election official. Go on the inside. They all hire citizens. They have to because they need so much manpower. One of the things Michigan has been lousy about is balancing their Republican and Democrat election officials. But I will tell you this, there's plenty of room and opportunity for people who are willing to admit they're Republicans to go become election officials. And then you're counting the ballots. You're processing the ballots. You're not wondering what they're doing inside. You are inside. And the left outnumbers the right inside in these positions. But we have closed the gap in states across the country. And that we did that in Virginia. We still haven't changed a single law from the last time the Dems had triple control and made terrible changes to our election laws. And it helped tremendously.
Of course it did. Just follow the laws that are on the books and we would be just fine. Same is true in Michigan. All right, real quickly, Ken, how do people find out the Election Transparency Initiative that you're part of? Where can they find more and do their part?
Yeah, we're at electiontransparency.org, and you can follow me on Twitter at Ken Cuccinelli. All you got to do is be able to spell Cuccinelli.
Well, that's a bit of a challenge for some folks, but they'll do just fine.
Some folks. You guys are helping with the screen here, though.
Well, Ken, we're working real hard, all right? We're working real hard with you, so keep up the good fight, keep the faith, and we're going to get these things cleaned up and have real, honest elections before you know it. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Steve.
Greatly appreciate it. All right. We'll take a quick break and be back. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Election integrity is so important. Do your part. You know, the Democrats' only plan for the election is to keep lying about Donald Trump, keep lying about ICE, keep lying about what's happening in this country, and hope that America fails. I mean, it seems to be all they have. Keep rooting against America, keep rooting against common sense, line up against law enforcement. Again, even though in Minnesota, for example, lots of people were picked up by ICE and Customs and Border Patrol over the last 4 years during the Biden administration, during that period of time, there weren't people running around blocking ICE officers then and creating chaos and nonsense in the streets. There's this narrative out there, and we talked about this. Maybe it starts in the classroom where teachers have no control over the kids. Maybe it starts in the classroom because these kids have this idea that they're in charge. Then these kids become adults and they think that they can decide which laws they're going to follow and which ones are irrelevant. Then they go cosplay, you know, I'm a vigilante for justice. No, you're just a clown. And do these people not have jobs? I mean, is that a fair question? Do these people even have jobs? I don't know. Here's a little strange story. I mean, I'm just going to deviate a little bit. A Pennsylvania man found with over 100 sets of remains in his home. He was out digging up graves and so forth. Yeah. Jonathan Gerlach. And he's got, tattoos down his neck, and he's got all these piercings and so forth. He looks satanic as hell, no pun intended. Arrested this week because police were investigating a string of burglarized graves and mausoleums at a cemetery on the outskirts of Pennsylvania. He had 100 sets of remains in his house. Some sort of a ghoul. This is completely satanic. What's wrong with people? There is a mental health crisis in America. There is so much of a mental health crisis in America. Just more evidence here. You want to stack your house with the bones and remains of other people. How bizarre. All right. We're going to talk about international organizations, conventions, treaties that are contrary to the interests of the United States in 2025 and what's being done about it straight ahead. You don't want to miss it on the Steve Gruber Show. All right. Good to see you here. Hope you had a great weekend. I spent mine in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. It was lovely, by the way. Thank you for all the great people in South Carolina and North Carolina as well. Great weekend. Look, my next guest, Craig Rucker, is the co-founder and president of CFACT. And withdrawing the United States from international organizations, conventions, and treaties that are contrary to the interests of the United States. It's the focus of our conversation for the next few minutes. Craig, thank you for being here.
Well, thanks for having me on, Steve. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure to see you. Look, there are a number of things done for, I don't know the motivations or the reasons or who was getting paid. Sorry, I'm a little jaded, but somebody was making money on probably all these deals. There's a focus on NGOs, as there should be, because a lot of these things have been fleecing Americans for decades. Money, they would say, okay, we want to help country X over here, so we're going to send $1 billion to this NGO. Then they take a cut off the top for 20 or 25%, maybe more, and then they go help those countries. And Trump says, let's not do that. How about we just help these countries directly, take the NGO, the middleman, out of the equation, and these countries will get more aid. We'll have more benefit for those people. The American taxpayers won't be funding the luxurious lifestyles of these people that run NGOs. Is that a good place to start?
Well, I think it is, unless you happen to be one of those NGOs that's getting cut off.
Well, right.
I would say that what Trump did, and really the good news keeps getting better with this administration, they have absolutely hit it out of the park. I myself personally have gone to about almost every one of the climate change conventions dating back to the 1990s. In fact, what Trump did last Wednesday, just so the audience knows, is he withdrew us from 66 UN entities, NGO type organizations like you mentioned, but also some conventions as well that have really not been serving the American people very well. The chief among them is the UN Convention on Climate Change. And that was signed by George H. Bush. And in fact, just a little bit of background on this, I myself was actually invited along with some other people back when George H. Bush was president to his office to actually talk to him about going down to the Rio Earth Summit and not signing this treaty. He, of course, eventually wound up canceling that meeting. Me, and it wasn't just me, but it was other conservative leaders, and wound up going. And he assured us it would be a non-binding treaty. Well, as it turns out, what starts as non-binding became binding. It led to the Kyoto Protocol, which led to the Paris Accord. Everybody wonders why, when they have hair dryers, they have to worry about climate alarm, or they're phasing out gas stoves, or we have to have all this solar and wind. Why are we being shoved into electric vehicles? It all stems back to that 1992 treaty, which gives kind of the government the authority to go after greenhouse gases. Well, Trump pulled us out of that. This will make it very difficult for future administrations to get back into it. And so that's just one of a number of things. The IPCC, which is the NGO you're talking about, that's kind of looked to as God when it comes to climate. We're out of that and defunding that. Number of other conventions. This is a good day. It's a good day for American sovereignty, good day for American consumers. The Trump administration, again, just hit it out of the park by doing this action.
If I'm not mistaken, Donald Trump is going to Davos here for the World Economic Forum coming up. And people are like, why is he going? I'm going to tell you why he's going, Craig, my guess. He's going to go deliver to them their terms of surrender. He's blowing up the globalist mindset. He's blowing up the globalist control. He's blowing up this left-wing, tyrannical, authoritarian control that's happening all over the planet. Look, we just saw nations like Argentina a couple of years ago, then Chile, and then Honduras. It's one after another throwing the socialists out of their countries and out of leadership. It's a big deal. The Venezuelans celebrating in the streets because Maduro was plucked out of there, right? I mean, the rebellion, the rejection of socialist communist ideology is happening all over the Western Hemisphere, thankfully. And it's because of the work of this president, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, it's you can gather that just by the reactions you're getting. You're getting Al Gore, for example, just going apoplectic over this entire thing. The mainstream media is going apoplectic over Trump's recent decisions and what he's doing. I'll be curious to see what he says at Davos. This isn't his first time going there. And I understand it, but he's always ruffled feathers every time he's gone in the past.
Good.
So my guess is, as he has with extracting the leader from Venezuela, his talks about Greenland, getting out of these UN meetings, it's a different day in America. It's one that we're not hold to the type of far left agenda that the UN has been touting, that the World Economic Forum has been touting for a long time. It truly is an America First one, as it should be. And hopefully it emboldens other countries too. It's still kind of discouraging in some ways that Trump's leadership on getting out of the UN climate framework still hasn't been followed. There's other countries thinking about it, like Argentina, Hungary, have moved in that direction. But my hope is that what he starts as a trickle and then a flood.
I mean, come
we'll
on,
see.
Craig. These climate zealots met just recently in Brazil. And in order to hold their conference, they bulldozed big chunks of old-growth rainforest to put in a facility so they could have their climate summit by destroying the environment. I mean, come on. These people are not serious. They're just... And climate change is a remarkable thing. If you have a drought, it's climate change. If you have a flood, it's climate change. Warm winter, climate change. Cold winter. I just saw Al Roker. We got a ton of snow because of climate change. I'm like, everything. It's a magical answer for everything, isn't it?
It is. And, backing behind this has been the governmental panel on climate change, the IPCC, which Trump got out of last Wednesday. I think it's a good step in the right direction. We have a whole host of scientists that are on the dole. And in fact, they're kind of beholden to the climate agenda because absent of some sort of narrative out there that says that we're all going to die from climate change, they don't get the grants, they don't get the funding that they need to carry out their work. So I think that that's also what you're seeing when you're seeing a lot of the reaction to what the president's doing as being the end of the world. We're saving ourselves billions, if not trillions of dollars of money that would be earmarked to address climate change. So a lot of people who've been getting rich off this thing, that day stopped.
Yeah. Time they stopped. Craig Recker, co-founder and president of CFACT. How can people find your operation, what you're doing, what you're involved with, and how you're trying to change the trajectory?
Certainly. We encourage everyone to come to our website at cfact.org. That's CFACT.org, and we can give you a free updates and emails and things of that sort that will keep you up to date on all these types of issues that are going on.
There you have it. Craig, thank you for being here. As always, we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Steve.
There you have it. Why were we involved with signing deals that are detrimental to this country, which means detrimental to you if you're in the middle class or in any class for that matter? Doesn't help America. It helps these NGOs and others line their pockets. We stand against that here because it's nonsense. Stop putting a middleman in that's shaving all this money. Same thing with insurance companies when it comes to health care. Why are we paying insurance companies all this money? And 17 Republicans said, well, that's fine. No, it's not. No, it is absolutely not. One example after another. All right, still to come, Mike Rogers running for U.S. Senate in Michigan after the break. I support it as long as I can enjoy it. All right, here we go. All right, back to it now. My next guest came within 0.3 of a percentage point of being the senator for Michigan currently. The outcome for us is we got the most radical left-wing senator, Elissa Slotkin. He's back in the race for an open Senate seat in Michigan. Mike Rogers, Army veteran, businessman, former FBI special agent who worked on organized crime in places like Chicago. Mike, welcome back to the program.
Steve, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
By all accounts, you're well ahead in the race to win the primary to be the Republican Senate candidate for Michigan. But what's it going to take? And this is a question I hear people ask, to break through that 19,000 votes. I mean, look, all I have to say is, do you want another Elissa Slotkin? And people are like, no, I don't. And McMorrow, I actually think McMorrow is the most likely person to end up on the Democrat side who is even more radical than Elissa Slotkin, if you can imagine. So what's it going to take to break through?
So 3 pretty liberal candidates really fighting it out in the Democrat primary right now. And one is more left than the other, and they continue to move to the left. I mean, government control of just about everything, including your health care, all of that. So here's the trick with this race. I got more Republican votes than any other statewide candidate in the history of the state that was a Michigan candidate for a Michigan office. And what we didn't get is about 100,000 people who walked into the poll and voted for Donald Trump and turned around and left. So the good news is there's enough voters in the bank for us to win this thing. And so what we've got to do is get our folks energized to get out. We're also talking to other groups out there about how dangerous it is to have those radicals who want to, have government in your life. They want to open up the borders. They want to defund ICE. They want to defund police. I mean, all of them are on the wrong side of just about every issue. They still this year, Steve, want men in women's sports and in women's locker rooms. I mean, they are so far off for where Michigan people are. I think that just as us getting our message out and connecting with people is going to be what does it.
And look, I've talked to Donald Trump, the president, about this. I talked to him about it in 2016, 2020, 2024. He believes, and so do I, Michigan is ground zero. Michigan is the pivotal swing state. And so the statewide race for governor, for the Senate seat you're running for Secretary of State, all of it, critical. As goes Michigan. He believes the country will follow. I believe that. And he won Michigan by a sizable margin. You were razor thin margin you came in behind. Let me ask you this. Let me shift gears here. I want you to put on your law enforcement hat. Speaking of ICE and all of this, during 2021 through 2024, ICE agents arrested lots of people in Minnesota. There weren't swarms of protesters and people blowing whistles and interfering with law enforcement. It's a terrible thing that happened. But the bottom line is now we've seen the body cam footage. This officer was hit by a car before he fired. You've got these people out here cosplaying, thinking there's some sort of new age vigilantes. Stop it. Let the people do their jobs. I mean, it's a terrible thing that happened, but I think it was a justified shooting from the video I've seen. I'm not law enforcement. What's your take on all of this?
You have a split second. I was in federal law enforcement, and it is against the law to impede law enforcement officers in the performance of their duties.
Period.
Clearly, that was what she was intended to do, number one. She didn't. There's multiple escalations that happened there on her behalf to the officers, including the officer who ordered her to stop, ordered her to get out of the car. She disobeyed that. She backed up. I mean, there are multiple things that say, okay, this is getting dangerous and more dangerous and more dangerous. And then when she hit the officer with the front part of her car, he had a split second to decide. And remember, this is a tactic that these groups talk about online, to use your vehicle to ram police officers, ram guards, which is dangerous. It's a lethal weapon. And I think when this comes out, I think they're going to find that this officer was absolutely within his authority to protect himself and other officers. You don't know what else she was going to think about doing.
Or
and
other
it's nice
civilians, for that matter.
Monday morning quarterbacking. that, well, maybe she didn't, or maybe she did, but she was a nice person. You know what? Murderers are sometimes nice people too before they commit murder.
Yeah.
And so you, as an officer in that incident, you don't have that luxury. These things are designed to disrupt law enforcement actions. And by the way, this doesn't get talked about, Steve. You know, they're arresting people who have criminal records. They're going after these illegal immigrants who are there, who are committing crimes against people. So every time you stop them from doing that, you're putting another person's life at risk. This makes no sense whatsoever.
None.
I think the Democrats
let me take that to the next part of what's happening in Minnesota, where we've got all of this fraud coming to light, billions and billions of dollars. Well, I'm onto a story here in Michigan I'm going to share with the folks here before the end of the month. We've got similar problems right here in Michigan, Mike. I know you're probably not surprised by that, where there's fraud happening and fake businesses fleecing the taxpayer that should be for kids that need school lunch money or need care for their autistic child and different things, that's being diverted to people that are lining their pockets criminally. We need to do this across the country. Last word to you.
Yeah, I mean, what's so maddening about this is all of the Democrats, including all three of my opponents, just didn't believe there was enough fraud to be worried about. Remember, they were saying, "Oh, you can't cut fraud. You're cutting real people." No, apparently, what we're cutting is people who are stealing money from people who legitimately need it to take care of themselves or their family. We ought to protect those programs to the people that need it, and we ought to be very aggressive to get after these folks who are stealing this money from all of us, really, from every taxpayer.
Absolutely true. Mike, tell them how they can find you.
Rogers for Senate, ROGERS for Senate.com. Love to have you. Most important race in the country. We're now the #1 pickup opportunity. This is going to be ground zero in this election. If you want closed borders, you want lower prices, you want better jobs, it's time to get engaged. Come visit us, RogersForSenate.com.
Mike Rogers, we'll talk again soon. Always nice seeing you, my friend. Thank you.
Hey, great to see you, my friend. Thanks.
There you have it. Mike Rogers, 0.3%. Got to break through. No more radicals in the Senate or the House. No more radicals. We'll take a break and be right back. All right, time to check in on sports now with Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. There were thrilling NFL wildcard games this weekend. 3 games yesterday. In Game 1, Buffalo upset Jacksonville on the road 27-24. Josh Allen's 1-yard touchdown run with 1:04 left in regulation gave the Bills the win. In Game 2, San Francisco dethroned the world champion Philadelphia Eagles 23-19 on the road. And in the finale, New England knocked off the LA Chargers in a defensive struggle 16-3. 10 games in the NBA yesterday. Winners included New York, Atlanta, Phoenix, and Oklahoma City. In the NHL, there were 5 games. Winners were Boston, Columbus, Winnipeg, Nashville, and Vegas. In men's college basketball, 2 top 25 games. 16th-ranked Illinois won at 19th-ranked Iowa 75-69, and 25th-ranked Central Florida squeaked by Cincinnati 73-72. And in women's college basketball, 2nd-ranked Texas was upset by 12th-ranked LSU 70-65. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right, Brock, thank you for that. And a bit of an update here, a bit of breaking news for you, for those of you in Michigan. Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist dropping out of the race for governor. He began that bid March of last year. He says he's going to run for Secretary of State instead. Garland Gilchrist never got any traction as a candidate for governor, none. Now he's out of the race. Announced his candidacy in a post on X saying he plans to continue his career in public service. I'm not sure he'll fare much better in the race for Secretary of State, but I guess we'll find out. But Garland Gilchrist is out of the race for governor. Not sure he was ever in the race, to be fair, but that's on his X account, so we'll keep an eye on how all those races continue to evolve, materialize, and everything else. Coming up in the next hour, Mike Murphy will be here, the Senior Vice President, Chief of Staff of the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. Michigan's next senator faces a Social Security shortfall. Gee, I wonder why that is. I don't know. Maybe we can continue to pay for fake daycares and home health care services and autism clinics that don't actually exist. Maybe if we kept our money for the people and for the programs we actually need and support, we'd be in better shape. What a thought. Huh? Find out more at stevegruber.com, where you can send me an email anytime you want. I'll look at them. Every one of them. I respond to most. I'll be right back. 3-6. There's always something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country.
President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent. Come on, man. We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
And welcome to it as we kick off another brand new hour here, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom every single day. It's a new year and it's a new effort to make sure that we're fighting for you every day. We do it because, well, it matters. We're fighting for this country, America first, all the time. Here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, Garland Gilchrist dropping out of the race for governor in Michigan, according to a post on X. He's now going to run for Secretary of State. His run for governor never got much attention or any traction to speak of. Number two, Donald Trump shifts gears. He'll be coming to Michigan tomorrow, visiting the International Auto Show. Of course, as we've talked about numerous times in this program, and I've talked to the president, he believes that Michigan is ground zero. Ground zero. And it does not change. And number three, here's a headline for you about Dana Nessel, and Republicans are going to take them to court. As promised, the Michigan House fired back with a lawsuit against the Attorney General, Dana Nessel, after she blocked lawmakers from restricting the spending of $644 million. It's leftover taxpayer money. They say it was tied up in waste, fraud, and abuse. Right? I mean, this is the working man and woman's money. Your money, my money. House Speaker Matt Hall told me on Friday right here on the program they're going to file this lawsuit. They have. They filed the complaint for immediate injunctive relief and a temporary restraining order in the Michigan Court of Claims. He called Nessel's ruling last week a power trip. Right here on this program, in fact. Hall stated Dana Nessel's recent opinion that allow government slush funds to keep spending these hundreds of millions of dollars of waste, fraud, and abuse on things like illegal alien welfare, diversity festivals, and the Biden-era green energy scheme is purely political and extremely flawed. I could not agree more. See, on Wednesday, the Attorney General issued an opinion regarding the unspent funds at the end of the last calendar year, saying the legislature's denial of those projects violates the separation of powers by state work projects. A previous reported unspent funds at the end of the year require the state budget office to file a request to have those funds rolled over into the work project accounts. The legislature said no. No, we're not doing that. And it's not just Nessel in the hot seat, by the way. This is a great story. You can find it at MichiganNewsSource.com. MichiganNewsSource.com, my news company out there hustling for you every day. The Michigan House of Representatives filed suit against 31 departments and department heads to prevent them from utilizing the slush funds, according to Speaker Hall. Last November, the legislature adopted the Hall Ethics, Accountability, and Transparency Act, HEAT, to combat what he calls the often hidden budget process in the Michigan legislature. It's now in effect. Other departments tied up in the lawsuit, the Department of State and Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, the Department of Health and Human Services with Director Elizabeth Hertel, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, MDEC, and the CEO Quentin Messner. And the list goes on. The list goes on. Because it's all of these departments spending your money without authorization, as far as I can read this. The DNR, Scott Bowen, the director. Department of Education, State Superintendent Dr. Glenn Maleko. Department of Technology Management and Budget, Director Michelle Lang. The State Budget Office and Director Jen Flood. It just goes on and on and on. It is time to clean up this mess. Donald Trump will be in Michigan tomorrow for the International Auto Show. He'll speak at the Detroit Economic Club as well. No stranger to presidential visits. The Detroit Economic Club boasts a long list of government and political leaders dating back to 1934. Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan, George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush. They've all been there. Donald Trump's been there before as well. The visit comes with the latest economic news from the Trump administration. That starting on January 20, the Trump administration will put a one-year cap of 10% on credit card interest rates. Now, some credit card companies say, well, that might mean that people get canceled. We'll see. But when you have 30% credit card interest rates, I mean, seriously, you make your minimum payment for 20 years, you might still have a balance. I've said that when you see 29.99% interest rates, which if you miss a payment on your credit card, they all default to this really high rate. Some are different, but some are 29.99%. That's loan sharking. To me, what do you think of it? Send me an email, stevegruber.com. I am curious. I'm curious. So I've been seeing more and more videos recently. There's this trend of people running away from the Democrat Party, running away not just the Democrat Party, just from these left-wing ideas. Look, I've never been a member of any political party. I prefer that. I'm not a registered anything. I'm with the Gruber Party. So's Anthony, by the way. He's all on board with it. But I see more and more videos like this one, people running away from the left. Listen.
So for a long time, I thought the left was my home. They talked about justice and human rights, things I genuinely believe in. And as someone who's gay, Iranian, Jewish, the son of immigrants, I thought this was where those values actually lived. That all fell apart for me in 2022 after the murder of Mahsa Amini, when Iranians were being killed for fighting for basic freedom. And all of those voices that never seemed to shut up about justice, all of a sudden just seemed to disappear. Then October 7th happened and anti-Semitism exploded under the guise of anti-Zionism. Now watching what's happening in Iran today, watching people risk their lives on the streets, I keep asking myself the same question I asked in 2022 and in 2023, which is, where the is everybody? Where are they? Because the people showing up for Iranians right now are the ones the left warned us about. The people who we are told are anti-justice are the ones speaking up for justice in Iran. And the ones who are supposedly the arbiters of justice are completely silent.
Completely silent. You know, I see more videos like that. Every day I see videos like that. People have had enough. They're fed up. They're like, I'm out of here. I'm out of here, as they should be. Speaking of your money, did you know that American homeowners nationwide have $32 trillion in equity? Cyber criminals target that with a growing scam the FBI has called house stealing. House alarms, doorbells, and cameras, none of that matters because they're not after your TV or your jewelry. They're after the equity you've built in your home over 5, 10, 15, 20 years. If your title isn't being monitored, scammers can and do transfer the title of your home into their name using a document they filed at the county. Then they take out loans against it or even sell it behind your back. The scariest part, you don't even know it until foreclosure notices end up in your mailbox. Well, with triple lock protection from my friends at Home Title Lock, triple lock protection can monitor, alert you of any changes, and God forbid if the worst happens, restoration services for you at no out-of-pocket cost. You can check on our Homes Title today, your Homes Title today. Make sure you're not a victim. Use the promo code Gruber at HometitleLock.com. Make sure the home is still yours. You'll also get a free title history report plus a free 14-day trial of their $1 million triple lock protection, 24/7 monitoring of your title, urgent alerts of any changes, and if fraud does happen, up to $1 million to fix it. Go to HometitleLock.com. Do it now. Use the promo code Gruber. That's HometitleLock.com, promo code Gruber, HometitleLock.com. I've got it. You should too. I'll be right back. All right. Nice to have you here as we continue the conversation. Try to bring you the best people we possibly can. So when you leave this program every day, you have a well-rounded understanding of the matters that impact you the most. All right. Mike Murphy is the Senior Vice President, Chief of Staff of the Committee for a Responsible Federal Government. And he says that Michigan's next senator, whoever it may turn out to be, faces a Social Security shortfall because, well, the Ponzi scheme only lasts for so long, doesn't it? Mike, welcome to the program.
Hey, good morning, Steve. Thank you so much for having me.
Look, you can only prop these things up so long. If you don't make systemic changes to Social Security, it's going to be a complete disaster in 5 years, 8 years? Not very long, right?
About 6 years, and that's when you referenced a second ago about the next senators having to address it, that's because it's going to be right within whoever the next senator election from Michigan's term is. So in 2032 is when the program's trustees estimate that Social Security will no longer be able to pay full benefits. That's when it's projected to go insolvent based on current projections. And what that means, Steve, is at that time, according to law, what they have to do at that time is match benefits with the revenues that are going to come in, and that's going to equate to about a 24% cut across the board. That equals about an $18,000 income cut for the typical retiree retiring at that time. So obviously that is something that all parties need to avoid, and they need to get on it sooner rather than later, Steve, to start to address this.
All right, let's talk about some solutions. We hear about the problem a lot, Mike. What are the solutions? How do we get this system to a place that it's functional, that it's solvent, and has staying power?
There's lots of solutions out there, and people have been putting forward ideas in sort of the policy world for years. You got to look at, it's kind of basic budgeting, Steve, both sides of the ledger. On the benefit side, it's not easy to talk about, but there's ways to adjust benefits prospectively. The fact of the matter is we have an aging population. We haven't really adjusted the retirement age prospectively to account for life expectancy changes. So there's lots of proposals to phase in changes to the retirement age over time. You raise it a month or two every couple of years, and you start that in a few years. So that's one way you can do things. You can change the benefit formula to make it a little bit more so people at the very wealthy end of the spectrum are still getting full benefits, but they're not getting as much as they get today based on current wages. But then on the revenue side, as you may know, you stop paying taxes on contributions when you hit about $180,000 a year. They haven't adjusted that based on total wages in the economy for some time. You could adjust that cap as well to get a little bit more revenue into the system. There's people on both parties that have talked about that. So you look at the revenue side, you look at the benefit side. But Steve, we know the deal. It's the third rail of American politics. People don't like to talk about any of these things because all of a sudden they get attacked. So we just need both parties to agree. We're going to start to talk about this openly and honestly. Otherwise, we're going to get to a point where that cut that I talked about before is staring them in the face.
Yeah, it's, it'll be life-changing. Look, we talk about this a lot. For example, property tax. I'll tie this in. You've got people on fixed incomes that see their property tax go up every year. It becomes harder and harder. If they have a benefit cut, it will become impossible. So the government fails at Social Security. And then other government entities will come in and seize people's property because they can't pay the property tax. This becomes an out-of-control, fire, doesn't it?
It really does. Look, the thing that, it's if you're a betting person, you can often bet that Washington won't act until it's up against the deadline. It's up against the crisis. So unfortunately, a lot of people think, well, that deadline's in 2032. Talk to me in 2032. We can't have that happen because you want to give this is an inevitable change that's going to have to take place. So you want to give people time to plan and adjust. It's a smart thing to do. Here's the thing I'm concerned about as a group that focuses on responsible budgeting is that you get up against that point when you're facing that deadline, and no politician is going to let a 24% across the board cut take place. So what do? They'll just borrow from the general fund, right, to finance Social Security. Well, here's the problem with that. We're already facing, as you probably know, Steve, $37 trillion in debt. Our debt is projected to go up trillions more over the coming years. Interest is the fastest growing expense in the federal budget, so we can't afford to borrow to save Social Security either. So unfortunately, it's going to require some tough choices from politicians to come together to address this, both the Social Security system at large but also the unsustainable nature of our budget as a whole.
Yeah. You know, I don't see how we have so many problems to fix because of bad policies. Ongoing bad policy, kicking the can down the road, as they say. And at some point, you can't kick it any farther. That's what you're saying, Mike. At some point, you come to this totality of circumstance. You get a tonnage of facts. And if you can't pay it, it's insolvent, then where does the money come from? I mean, they'll scramble. They'll try to figure out right now. These Republicans want to continue to, 17 of them, want to continue to pay insurance companies directly for giving inferior health insurance to people that costs more and gives less. I mean, I can just go right down a laundry list of bad things that we're wasting money on that could be used to shore up Social Security or other programs that are needed, right?
Now, you're bringing up a good point. That's what I was going to raise too. It's one thing to try to figure out how you're going to tackle programs in the future that are coming, like that are going insolvent, like Social Security and our debt challenges that are going to continue to grow. But it's another thing from stop making the problem worse by adding to it with bad policies. So, as you recall, obviously it wasn't too long ago, they just went through this shutdown, which was a big charade that the demand to kind of reopen the government was a thing that they're still talking about now, which you referred to, which was extending these ACA credits, which will cost hundreds of billions of dollars to do so. But not a lot of people are talking about how you're actually going to pay for that. So when you're in a hole from a budget situation, you stop digging. And unfortunately, the actions seem to be just kind of digging it worse. They just need to follow their own rules, Steve. They have rules that they're supposed to follow called pay-as-you-go rules.
Yep.
Politicians
don't.
just waive them. They just waive them consistently. And so if we actually held to those rules, we could stop digging, and that's what voters need to press their elected officials to do.
Mike Murphy, got to leave it right there. Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. Keep up the good fight, Mike. We'll talk soon. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Back after this. All right, so much going on. Here's one of the outrageous things you'll hear today from me. The committee chair, Ken Martin for the DNC, for the Democratic National Committee, he compares what's happening in Iran, where 3,000, according to the NCRI, the National Council of Resistance of Iran, who we had on earlier in the program, they believe that 3,000 people have been gunned down and murdered by the Iranian regime in the last few days because of the uprising in Iran. 150 maybe of the soldiers there have been killed as well. And he says that what happened in Minnesota is just like what's happening in Iran. Ken Martin says what's happening in Minnesota just the same as what's happening in Iran. I mean, have these people completely gone and lost their minds? The answer, of course, is yes. Yes, they have. Comparing what's happening in Iran, where 3,000 people fighting for freedom have been murdered by their own government, is not at all the same to somebody who's cosplaying and putting herself in harm's way. The decisions of the woman in Minnesota. She put herself into a position where bad things happened. Bad decisions have bad consequences. And Ken Martin, I'd say he should be ashamed of himself, but obviously he's not too bright. And it's just terrible that he would even make that. Renee Good put herself in that position. I didn't put her there. And the Iranian government has been abusive to its citizens for 47 years. They've had enough. There's nothing comparable about the two circumstances, nothing at all. It's disingenuous, dishonest, and frankly quite silly. Still to come, House Appropriations Chair Ann Boland will be here from Brighton Township. AG Nessel's work project opinion. We'll talk about that coming up on the Steve Gruber Show. I'll be right back. Well, we appreciate you being here as we kick off another brand new week, of course, and a lot to do. Joining me is the House Appropriations Chair Ann Boland from Brighton Township. That's District 49. Ann, welcome back to the program.
Well, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, all right. So a big opinion from Dana Nessel. What is it with these folks that just want to spend money that could be returned to the taxpayers or used in different places. I mean, this whole case going to the Court of Claims, right, with Dana Nessel.
Yes.
Speaker Hall filed that lawsuit on behalf of Republicans, on behalf of the taxpayers. Good Lord. I mean, we saw this happen during COVID, Ann, when all this money flowed into to the state and then it wasn't returned to the federal government, so they made, splash pads and other things that have nothing to do with health or anything else. They'll use the money for any damn thing they want, apparently. And boy, is that infuriating. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely, it's infuriating, and that's why we took this step. We made it very clear when we started this budget process, when we regained majority in the state house under Speaker Hall, that we were going to cut waste, fraud, and abuse, and we were going to go over the budget line by line. That's exactly what we did. This work project statute, while the Attorney General wants to deem it as unconstitutionally, we were perfectly within our order and right and responsibility and obligation of the taxpayers to exercise that statute and claw back these work projects. There was a request for over $2 billion in additional fiscal year 25 work projects. We disapproved $665 million roughly. So not all of them were turned down, but the way the process works, it's everything within the line item. You can't, cherry pick what you want to support and what you don't want. But I would say for the most part, many of these were wasteful spending agendas. These were not part of a negotiated budget. This was a budget that was adopted under the Democrat trifecta, blowing through $9 billion in taxpayer surplus. We're returning the money to the taxpayers. We are the ones that are working under Speaker Hall's heat plan and his leadership and as a united caucus to make sure that we're working on behalf of the people of Michigan.
In a day and age when everybody is in debt, government that is, because government's reckless with taxpayer dollars, always looking for more money, more money, more money. How is it that we have anything that's referred to as a slush fund in the first place? We don't need slush funds. We might need a rainy day fund.
Absolutely.
We might need an emergency fund, but slush funds? Oh, we're going to do this and this and this. Come on. It's got to stop.
No, and in fact, the state does have a rainy day fund. And,
right.
We increased that funding that was brought about under Governor Snyder's regime. And certainly we have had a commitment to that. But to blow through $9 billion in these projects, we should be looking at projects that support the public's health, safety, and welfare. I don't think bringing public Wi-Fi to Greektown is a matter of the public's health, safety, and welfare. Yemeni nonprofits receive funding for 5 years despite failing to file a tax return. Renovations, private baseball stadiums.
Let me ask you this, Ann. Let me ask you this, because what you do is you make me think that, okay, we see what's happening in Minneapolis and Minnesota. I think it's probably happening right here as well. Maybe not to that degree, maybe worse. Who knows? Because every time you have waste, fraud, and abuse, they circle the wagons to protect their friends. Because the way this works is the same way it worked in Minnesota. Protect your friends, let them line their pockets, because some of that money circulates all the way back into the campaign coffers. That's the way it works every time, until I'm proven wrong.
Generally speaking, people do believe, follow the money, right? But I will tell you that it's a case of waste when you are abusing the system, because they'll say, oh, we're allowed to, have these work projects. When you have such abuse of it, it leads to fraud. In Michigan, we have already found fraud in the UIA system. We found it in the SNAP program. And we're going to continue by unveiling where we have the waste. It leads us to the abuse, and it will lead us to where the fraud is. We are taking every measure possible to, 1, unveil it, and 2, to avoid it, and 3, to make sure that the consequences are there for those people that are found to be fraudulent. But we have to rein in the spending. We cannot be picking winners and losers, who's our friend, who's not. This is not about whether or not a program is worthy. What this is about the responsibility that legislators have to properly appropriate the taxpayers' money, and what is required constitutionally, what's required by statute, what's a priority and what's a preference. Unfortunately, I find too many of these projects that we see in the budget that were adopted in the Democratic trifecta that are preferences. They're helping their buddies. Why are we giving $10 million, for Potter Park Zoo? These are things that when people are hurting, people are worried about being taken off Medicaid, they don't have housing that's affordable to them. Their taxes are going up. Their kids aren't being educated. I think they care far more about making sure their kids can read and they have a tutor in school than having, a zoo to go take a family trip to.
Yeah. It's remarkable how much abuse there is of the taxpayer. Pet projects, pork projects, all these different things, and it's remarkable in this day and age. I hope that this revelation after revelation in Minneapolis is a catalyst to doing better here as well, of people wasting money. I think that what Speaker Hall has done here to file suit, incredibly important. The revelation, I mean, people are just shocked, and now actually, for the first time, maybe, they seem to be angry enough to say, this has got to stop. People are frankly mad as hell. And they should be about how their money is used for this pet project and that pet project and circulates around, and nobody seems to be accountable. And Dana Nessel, they can use the money however they want. I got an idea. How about a tax refund for Michigan taxpayers? What about that idea, right?
Amen to that. And, I would say all this opinion does is takes away from the legislative authority. And one of the few things that we are responsible for, and that is appropriating the money. And if you just give all this authority once the budget is adopted to a governor, and ultimately these bureaucrats are going to wait a governor out. The bureaucrats in Lansing have been there longer than 4-year term governor, or the legislature for that matter. So we are taking the government back. We are working on behalf of the taxpayers. We are going to continue on our course to make sure that we have transparency and accountability. And we're here to transform the budget process and lead Michigan to prosperity.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We do. I certainly hope that the elections coming up in November show people are angry about all these things and slush funds and backroom deals and fraud. I hope that we finally have people angry enough, Ann, to say we've had enough. Anyhow, I always appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Have a good day.
As always, thank you. It's just really, isn't it? Just really remarkable. They don't care, it seems. Anyhow, you know what I care about? Ivy's up next. That's what I care about. She's supposed to be, I think. Yes, absolutely. Sometimes she gets bumped, but not today, my friends. Not today. Ivy will be here right after the break. All right, here we go back into it. I was gone for the weekend, as I told you. Maybe I didn't tell you a lot about it, but I was in South Carolina on a beautiful piece of property and spent a short period of time there, just the weekend, and came back. And Ivy held down the homestead where it was snowing. It was not snowing in South Carolina, I can assure you. Ivy, good morning.
Good morning, Steve.
How are you?
I'm great. How about you?
I'm good. A little tired. It was
Tired?
it was a run, bang, a little bit.
Oh, man. I think, shooting ducks and catching fish and hanging out with buddies is, rejuvenates you.
Yeah, you would think, yeah.
It's more like, oh, man, I need a vacation from a vacation or what?
Something like that, yeah. It wasn't even a vacation. It was a weekend, Friday to Sunday, but it was good.
Good. I'm glad you had fun. I know I have a lot of duck to cook, which I'm very excited about.
Yep, they donated all the ducks.
Because I haven't cooked duck because the understanding was,
yeah. Here we go again.
That in order for me to cook duck,
good Lord,
we had to shoot duck. And so we haven't gone duck hunting. You haven't taken me duck hunting at all. So I have not cooked duck.
Tough crowd today.
Almost 20 years.
Yeah.
But now this week, I can cook duck. Good job, babe.
Yeah, well, you can thank the other folks mostly, anyhow.
Oh, come on. I'm just giving you our time.
Yeah,
just having fun. I do want to make a few comments about what's happening in Minnesota and around our country with ICE. We always hear about these protesters, and of course, if you comply, you will stay alive. Very simple.
Yeah, that's right.
In any situation when it comes to law enforcement. But do you know the criminals that they actually do have lawful orders to go and pick up? I have an entire list here.
All right, let's hear it.
Here's a list of the most egregious criminal aliens they've arrested. This is ICE during the surge in the sanctuary state of Minnesota.
So this is just Minnesota.
This is just Minnesota.
Go ahead.
Okay. It's an extremely disturbing list. And here we go. I'm not going to name the names just because I'm going to, they're really hard to pronounce. But anyhow, an illegal alien convicted of strong arm sodomy of a boy and strong arm sodomy of a girl with a deportation order since 2018. Looking for that person.
Yeah.
Illegal alien convicted of sexual assault and sodomy of a girl under the age of 13.
Good
and
Lord.
procuring a child for prostitution with a deportation order since 2006. Illegal alien convicted of the strong-armed rape of a 12-year-old girl and kidnapping of a child with intent to sexually assault her with a deportation order since 2004. Illegal alien convicted of strong-arm rape, aggravated assault with a weapon, and strangulation with a deportation order since 2012. Illegal alien convicted of rape and child fondling with a deportation order since 2003. Illegal alien convicted of rape with a weapon, and sexual assault with a deportation order since 1996.
Wait, since 1996?
Yes. Illegal alien convicted of sexual assault of a child and DUI with a deportation order since 2016. Somalian illegal alien convicted of homicide. Salvadorian illegal alien convicted of 3 counts of homicide with a deportation order since 2025. Mexican illegal convicted of homicide who has been previously deported in 2002. Sudanese illegal alien convicted of homicide. Laotian illegal alien convicted of 2 counts of homicide with a deportation order since 2009. An illegal alien, I have 2 more. I actually have a whole other page of this. I can continue on and on and on and on and on. Homicide, manslaughter.
You're raping children, murdering people, DUIs, people getting killed, children being...
Okay,
oh my
protesters, hello. These ICE agents are going to get very bad people out of the community. This is just one list of the worst offenders. There's more. There's more than this. And what are you protesting about? This is not about human rights. This is about your human rights, protecting you from vicious, horrible criminals.
Speaking of that, Renee Good. Oh, she's just a mom. She's a mother who lost custody completely of her 2 oldest kids to her first husband. Mm-hmm. The only reason she had custody of this child was because her second husband died. And apparently, her wife that appeared in those videos was guilty of abusing children. That's a rumor that I'm looking into, but it seems to have legs. It seems to be true. These were not, these innocent mom going to work, dropping your kid off at daycare. Stop it.
Right. But Steve, these people are the ones that get all the attention.
That's right.
It's not the criminals that ICE is going to go find. You haven't heard this.
Look, if
Where
Renee
have you heard
Good,
this?
I said this earlier, if Renee Good had been murdered by one of those people that you just rattled off on your list, you'd never heard of her. They wouldn't even talk about her. There would be no protest. Nobody would care. If she had been killed like Laken Riley or some of these others, I mean, there's only a handful that have ever gotten it. Right. Only a handful that have ever gotten into the headlines. You'd never hear about it. If Renee Good had been T-boned by an illegal who was drinking and driving, you'd never hear about it.
No.
There'd be no protest.
No. And you would think that that would be the common sense thing to do. Hey, we need to clean up our streets. And it's an outrage that these folks are creating this whole different narrative of, hey.
Propaganda.
It's propaganda. Like, here's the reality. Here are these people that they're going after. And this is true in many other states in our country. And why would you want these people here? It's unbelievable. And it's the lies and deception that sometimes the mainstream media puts out there. They're not covering these criminals that the ICE is going to get. You haven't heard this probably on any other station.
No.
You'll hear it here.
You'll hear it here.
But, get out of the way. Let ICE do their job. Comply and stay alive.
Which, by the way, as I pointed out earlier today, ICE has been doing their job through the entire Biden administration. They're arresting people in Minnesota the entire time. There weren't protests then. What's the difference? Oh, yeah, Donald Trump's in the White House. Ivy, I got to run.
Nothing like a rent-a-riot.
Thank you for the education. Greatly appreciate it. Love you.
I love you too, Steve. Thank you.
Wow. Did you hear that list? Share it with your protesting friends. I'll be right back. All right, I want to continue on this just for a little bit here. The U.S. using a sonic weapon. This was reported. This is a report from Fox News that I'm relying on. We were on guard, but suddenly all our radar systems shut down to say witness on the ground. All our radar systems shut down without notice or explanation. The next thing we saw were drones, a lot of drones flying over our positions. We didn't know how to react. They were technologically very advanced. They didn't look anything like anything we fought against before. We were hundreds, but we had no chance. They were shooting with such precision and speed, it felt like each soldier was firing 300 rounds a minute. At one point, they launched something. I don't know how to describe it. It was like a very intense sound wave. Suddenly, I felt like my head was exploding from the inside. We started bleeding from the nose. Some were vomiting blood. We fell to the ground, unable to move. We couldn't even stand up after that sonic weapon, or whatever it was. Those 20 men, without a single casualty, killed hundreds of us. We had no way to compete with their technology, with their weapons. I swear, I've never seen anything like it. This is from a witness on the ground. Some sort of a sonic weapon. Wonder what that is. I wonder what that is.
So
honestly.
Cool.
What's that?
I said that's so cool.
Yeah, look. Easy to beat the enemy if the enemy's all laying on the ground because you've incapacitated all of them. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty cool. Keeps Americans out of harm's way. By the way, Caroline Levitt posted something similar to that online, maybe a tacit admission of, yes, we have things you've never even seen before. We have weapons you're not even aware of. Russia, China, Iran, Cuba. Pay attention. We've got tricks in our bag you've not even seen yet. That should be a warning to the world. When Donald Trump warns you, take it seriously. So that's why the president of Colombia, I believe, is coming to the White House here this week. He took the warning seriously. Hey, let's get together and talk. Cuba's in real trouble. The oil has been shut off. Their economy's in real trouble with no Venezuelan oil. And Donald Trump said no oil for Cuba, none. We'll see where that leads. Fight the good fight, my friends. Keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is the Steve Gruber Show. And remember, only you can save America.